I remember sitting at the lunch table on the pilot with Steve and Greg Daniels, and I remember us all saying, like, there's something very interesting between Jan and Michael. And I think that chemistry, like, if we get so lucky as to get to do more of these, we should have them hook up sometime, you know? The whole episode of Dinner Party was, it was so fun. It was so awkward, the whole thing. It was in a tiny, tiny little condo.
So this is the master bedroom, and these walls, they used to be like white, like an asylum. So I wanted it to be softer, so I had it painted in eggshell white.
Guess what? White and eggshell white are exactly the same color.
The writers of The Office were always really present.
Michael Scott!
I get frustrated or irritated or angry, I come up here and I just smell all my candles. And it just poof, goes away.
I didn't even believe we were a hit until we won that first SAG award.
I could show them into conference room B. How do I do it? Raise my daughter, work as director of office purchasing for this hospital, and release an album of Doris Day covers on my own label? If I knew, I'd tell you.
What was it like working with David Schwimmer?
Well, David and I knew each other since we were 17. We actually went on a date when we were 17, which is hilarious. I just remember kissing behind his couch in his parents' living room.
Weird thing happened to me on the train this morning.
No. Talk dirty.
How was the Hannah Montana movie?
Oh, so fun, so fun.
This whole evening was a disaster. I just organized the whole thing, and then that girl just comes in and ruins it.
She's got a complicated laugh.
I remember Miley bringing in a demo of The Climb into the makeup trailer, and she was like, we're gonna record this song. And then...
Mark.
Flattering, yet totally inappropriate comment. Please sit.
Before we get started, I think you should know that Mark's a bastard.
How was working with Zac Efron on 17 again?
Well, that was great. My mom actually coached him on that. You know, I said to him, if you were my age and I was single, you'd be in big trouble. And he was like, oh, you don't have to be my age. And I was like, what did you just say?
Oh, Zachary. Over 100 shows and movies at this point. How do you transition from child actor to teen actor to leading lady?
With a lot of luck.
That's really true.
Yeah. I think that like, you know, a lot of times child actors are just really cute, and then they don't do as well when they're, you know, in the world of young adulthood. And I guess also it has a lot to do with comfort with your sexuality. And I think that translates. So I think I transitioned pretty gracefully between childhood to young adulthood to you know, womanhood, I guess, as you'd say. So I think that's why.
And were you always just in love with being in front of the camera?
I did. I was. Yes, I always was. I think that my relationship to it has grown and changed. You know, I started so young. I started when I was 6, partially because, you know, my parents were doing it, and I thought that would be fun. But I was really a serious ballerina. Like, I thought, I'm going to be a professional ballerina, and acting is my hobby. And that's what I would have told you as a little girl. So when I went to college, I really went to college to make sure that I was doing all that I was doing because I really wanted to, not because I'd been doing it and had success doing it.
When a script comes along on your desk and you're reading it and you're deciding if you want to audition for it, can you pick out, like, this is the right role for me, I would crush it on this, or this is the project that's going to succeed?
I think that I can tell when something really hooks me. And, you know, I kind of work on a triangle where, you know, it needs to have 2 of the 3 sides of the triangle. It has to have either people that I want to work with, or people, money, and material. Obviously, that's the triangle. So it has to have 2 of those things to be of value to me. And sometimes it has 3 of those things, but a lot of times it doesn't. It just has 2 of those things.
And for the role for Caged, like, you're the prison guard, you have the makeup, you're a pretty devious character.
Yeah.
Is that something that gets you excited that you get to create and play with this person now?
Yeah. That was super fun to completely transform into somebody that you would never in a million years think I could be.
Yeah.
You know,
that was really fun to see you take that on.
Yeah, it's fun to surprise people that way, and myself too, just to go there, to go where, you know, go where no man has gone before. To go where I haven't gone before is fun.
For the audition for Jan, when you did The Office, do you remember, was the rest of the cast kind of played out? Were there people that were already signed on that you wanted to work with for that?
No. No, I auditioned for the pilot. So no one had even made the pilot. I was in the pilot. So the pilot was, and actually it was funny because it was kind of a last minute. I remember that I went over and got the sides from the office and from the casting office and stepped outside and worked on it for like 20 minutes and then went in and did it.
Oh, that quickly?
Yeah, it was a really kind of a last minute thing. And it was interesting because the next day after that audition, I tested with Allison Jones, who was our casting director. She was doing another pilot that I tested for, and I was sitting in the hallway, and she came out, and I was next to go in, and I was testing, with some other, I guess, a couple other actresses, and she came out and she said, you were so great yesterday, and this was the audition for The Office, and I said, oh, thank you, and that character at that time, Jan, was a guest star on a pilot, possible recurring, but this one that I was testing for was a starring role in a series that I think had been picked up for it was just a pilot. It hadn't been picked up.
But it was the starring role.
But it was the starring role.
Oh.
And I said to her, well, hopefully I'll get this and hopefully I'll get both. And she was like, I really want you to get that, because she had a feeling that was going to be really special. And, that was what happened. I didn't get the other, and the other one just sort of went away. They made their pilot, but it never became a thing.
You had already done so much incredible work at that point.
Yeah.
Did you have a good gut feeling about it?
I thought it was great. I think there were a lot of things about it that were new to me. I'd never seen that many, writers on set. I mean, the writers of The Office were always really present, and that was a really new and fresh collaborative experience, and I'm a real collaborator. That's one of my greatest skill sets and one of my greatest joys in life. So I was really into that when the writers were showing up and they were changing lines and we were talking about things, and the creator Greg Daniels was always very curious about what was resonating and what was working and what wasn't working, and that was really, really special for me. But whether or not it was going to be what it was, I mean, no. I was also pretty wary at that time. I had done something that was probably my 13th pilot was The Office, or maybe my 12th or 13th or something. I don't even know. But it was definitely a long line of pilots that had been short-lived series or failed pilots, and so I just was taking it all with a grain of salt. I didn't even believe we were a hit until we won that first SAG award, and I had to carry that around all night and woke up the next day with not being able to lift my arm because my bicep was so exhausted, because the base is a marble base, and it's a bronze statue and a marble base, and I mean, you're carrying that around all night like this, and I mean, literally it was just I was like, and I remember going, oh, I have physical proof we're a hit. Yeah. And that was what it took for me to realize we were.
Did it feel like there was a huge boom even after once it went on Netflix and with COVID and people kind of started re-watching it with now on all these streaming platforms?
I mean, what really has happened with that is that it just lives on forever. That's the thing. It's crazy how it just continues to touch people and new generations, so that I have fans that are 10 years old and I have fans that are, 65 or 70. So it's just because people really, because our first group of fans when we were on NBC, and then we were the first show to really be successful on iTunes, streaming on iTunes.
For people to purchase?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was really what we were the first hit on iTunes. And those fans were mostly 40-year-old men at the time, because they could kind of track that stuff more than I think they can now with the streamers. I think that the networks really had that down. They were able to really find out who was really watching the shows, and that was who was watching us. Now it's everybody. It's women, men, young, older. It's crazy.
Yeah, as an actress, does that kind of get you excited that all of your past work could just be put on anything now, and there could be a crazy boom.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's crazy, right? It's really amazing that you can do that and that people can have the experience of great work, for a long, long time. I mean, still have this one woman movie that I did called Golden Vanity with these young filmmakers that are first time filmmakers, Max Abram and Taylor Minus, and I made this movie with them. And really, it did great in the festival circuit and won tons of awards, and but it hasn't really been seen by the general public. And I used to worry about that, and then I was kind of like, someone somewhere is going to want to program this because it's a great movie, and it's going to get seen. And it doesn't matter if it gets seen right this minute. Maybe it'll get seen tomorrow or the next day or in 2 years, or I don't know. But it's there, and it's really quality work. And you keep hearing, people need content. They need content. Really? Okay, well then why are they, you know what I mean? Why does it seem so? Anyway, it's a great thing about streaming is that things can live for a long, long time. I mean, I did a really cool movie years and years ago with Corey Parker called Big Man on Campus. And that was supposed to be a big, huge summer hit. And it went straight to video. And when something went straight to video back then, that was the death knell. And it's, and it's never been seen, and it was a really, really cute movie that they spent a lot of money on, a funny, sweet, charming little romantic comedy. So, you just never know, right? But now things have the potential to live for a very long time, which is really cool.
How do you feel about how movies used to have that second resurgence where it was in the theater and then it got put out to DVD and rental boxes, but now that's not really there anymore? So as an actress, does that really take effect on you? I guess for like those residual type, not residuals.
Well, yeah.
It does?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when it would pay off for something.
It was like the second boom.
Well, yeah, and when things would have reruns, you would actually get paid for that too. When things got sold, called syndicated,
right?
They would, that would pay off. And now, it's not great. It's not great. I was totally not into the idea of having a strike right after COVID. I thought that was like the worst idea, but unfortunately we did. But I don't think we gained very much around this particular issue. And I think it's a really, really hard one because you've got streamers that they're not really accountable for what their income is and what the output is. The fact that the actors are the ones that are bringing these stories to life. The writers are the ones that are writing the stories that we're bringing to life. And I just don't know that it's commensurate actually with the way now people consume. I think it's tricky. I'm not saying I have the answer because I don't, but I do think it requires a lot more thought and negotiation because we're not getting compensated the way that people are consuming our images and our performances is not commensurate with what we get paid for that.
Do you think
over
that
time?
Do you think that change will happen eventually?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I hope it does because, one of my daughters is an actress, and like I really do hope for young actors that there's a way to really make a living, because there was a time when just being a journeyman actor, my father was really a journeyman actor who was in lots and lots of things, and but he was never a star. He was never, but he was a working actor, and he could really make a good living. He made a good living for himself. By doing guest stars on things and doing and recurring on things here and there, or doing pilots every now and then, but residuals were really good back then, and now it's you can't really. I mean, I don't really know how actors who are not stars or not some kind of a name, how they're doing it. I don't know how they're doing it, and it does worry me because of my daughter and because of the next generation of young actors that have to be able to get their footing somehow.
Do residual checks still come in from like the hot chick 17 again, 27 dresses?
Yeah, they do, but not like in the 80s, or the early 90s the way that they did.
Because that was coming from VHS sales, DVD sales.
Yeah, it was a really different situation. Really, really different.
Where do you think the future of all this streaming and TV is going to go? Is TV going to eventually fizzle out and it's just gonna be the streaming platforms?
Gosh, I don't know. Maybe.
That's what
But,
it feels like.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Because when I was in college, I felt like no one had cable. We were all too
Right.
young. We couldn't afford it. Everyone just had $8 Netflix. So that would just kind of just
Yeah.
prove like the youth were pushing this new thing.
Right. That's true. You're right.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think people really want to watch TV the way that I did when I was growing up, where I would like plan to sit down and watch Charlie's Angels at a certain time on a certain day. And I got excited about that.
Yeah.
And now it's not like that. You watch it whenever you want, whenever it's convenient for you.
Are there any shows you like watching now?
Well, I actually, I just watched all of the Landman.
So good.
Really great. Yeah, loved it. And yeah, let's see, what else did I watch? I'm like way behind. It's like popcorn fun, but younger.
Okay.
I hadn't seen it, and it's very similar. They were making it at the same time I was doing the Bold Type, so it's definitely in that same kind of demographic, but super fun. I'm liking that a lot too. That's just easy watching, fun popcorn kind of watching.
Would you ever want
I've seen a lot of movies.
Would you ever want to work with Tyler Sheridan?
Yes, I would.
What other directors
As a matter of fact.
Are there any other directors that you'd want to work with? Because you've worked with so many.
Yeah, I have. There's like Peter Greenaway, I think is one of the most incredible artists, directors of like ever. Baz Luhrmann, I'd love to work with. I'd love to work with Jane Campion. There's so many. The woman who wrote and directed Substance, blanking on her name right now, but I thought that was just a brilliant, genius movie. I really did. And Demi Moore is going to win the Academy Award on Sunday night. So
Are you going to it?
that's what I think. I think she should. I'm not going to it. No, not this year.
How did Dancing with the Stars come on the table for you?
Well, they'd been trying to get me to do it for a long, long time. And I just sort of, I got to a certain point where I was like, you know what? Maybe now is the right time. Maybe it would be great. And I love to dance. And I, still dance. And I've never done ballroom. And I thought, why not? So I did. And it was great. It was really great.
How'd you like doing ballroom?
I thought it was really fun, really fun. I love anything with technique. I really enjoy technique, and it's very technical. So I very much enjoyed that. I wish, it's hard doing it on a reality show because, everything's pressured and high pressure, and it's really, not really a dancing show, to be honest. It's really more like a dramatic arc show. It's kind of like that.
Who has the biggest change throughout?
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, kind of setting up for that. But I enjoyed it very much, and I wanted to learn all the dances, and I got to, and so yeah, I can't complain. I thought it was awesome.
Are there any other reality shows of that esque, like The Masked Singer?
Yeah, maybe. I've thought about it. I don't know that I'll ever do another reality show, but if I was going to do one, it would probably be that one.
Right.
Yeah, because I do love to sing, and that's fun.
When you get a really good monologue,
Yeah.
does it kind of feel like a gift from the writers that you get to bring this to life?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, when you get great material, then you can do great things with great material.
Are there any that stick out to you that you just loved how it came out in the final edit?
Yeah, I mean, in Golden Vanity, I'm the only person on screen, so I talk a lot. That's pretty amazing, actually. I have to say, I think the way that the material and the character and the way that I did the character, the way they filmed the character, the way that we created the character, and the look of the character and the look of the film, it all just works. It's really special. It's a really special movie in that way, in that regard. Other like long monologues and things, I just think about, like I just came off Broadway doing McNeil with Robert Downey Jr. At Lincoln Center, and I had some great, chunks of dialogue there written by Ayad Akhtar. So really, really awesome, very provocative, intelligent writing. So, yeah.
Is there anything you learned from him about Broadway, or anything that you think that you took on from this experience that you're going to do forward now?
When you say him, who are you
Robert
asking?
Downey Jr. Like getting to play with somebody else like that.
Well, that was Robert's first. That was his Broadway debut. It was not my Broadway debut. But anytime you work with a great actor, you always learn, and I think even more than learn, you just enjoy. You just really enjoy. And I think one of the great things about working with other really, really gifted actors is that you can both just trust and toss the ball back and forth, really, is what you're doing. You're just sort of, that, like, whatever curveball he's going to send my way, I'm going to catch it and send it back to him, and he's going to catch it. And there's, like, no wrong, you're just going to kind of sail together. It's like ice skating, like partner dancing on ice. It's really, really wonderful.
What do you get as a creative from live theater that you don't get from filming a show or a movie?
Well, I mean, there's just nothing better than beginning, middle, and end. Being able to actually play that out.
Like bringing it in.
Yeah, and also just feeling the instant gratification of the audience's reaction. You can feel when you've got them on Tinder hooks, and when you've got them when they're laughing, and when they're sniffling, and when you're really communicating, and you're storytelling, and you get to feel it immediately. There's a separation from you and the audience in film and television that you don't have when you're doing theater.
Right, and you get that immediate feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so whatever the critics say, you're getting the information from the audience every night.
Do you have any other Broadway coming up?
Not right this minute, no. But they're doing one of my favorite. They're making one of my favorite Disney animated movies into a live action movie.
Which one?
And that's what I really want to do. Tangled.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I want to play Mother Gothel.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a backyard Mother Gothel during COVID, and I got tons and tons of likes and lots of amazing comments, and that was really fun. And then I danced to myself singing Mother Knows Best on Dancing with the Stars, and we got our first 10 of the season. And so actually we just put together a little reel of me doing both of those things and some of the comments. And we hear that they want to get like some giant recording star to play Mother Gothel, but I think that it should be me.
I think so too.
So I'm going to do my best to just at least know that I did everything I could to get that part. I'm going to do everything I can.
What kind of advice do you give for your daughter in the acting world for today?
I mean, she's at a point in her life where she doesn't really want that much of my advice. But basically, just look, she's a hard worker, and I would say to any young actor, like, work hard, but also work fun, work well. It's called a play because we're playing a story. If you ever lose your sense of play, you're gypping yourself out of the experience. And so, doors open, you can start to follow doors. You can see that doors open and doors close, and go towards the doors that open, and walk through that door, and then watch for the other doors that might be opening. And also don't expect that it's all going to happen overnight. See, what's weird about it for kids, I think, and, I even noticed when I was growing up, is that you get to a certain time in your life where you realize, oh, my parents had a whole life before I ever came into it. And you don't realize that. And so when you have a mom like me, who's, by the time they realized, like, that I was separate from them and I was, a person and not just, them, and
Just
they were
mom.
me and I was them. Well, when kids are little, that's part of the bonding, is they, you are them and they are you, and they just don't, and then they start to individuate. And as they do, they realize, and then they're like, oh. And then if one of them happens to want to be an actor, and they see that I'm, famous and have all this career, and I think it's a hard thing to be able to go, okay, what's my path? And so what I'm mostly always trying to encourage her to do is have her own path. She's going to have her own path. It's going to be different than my path. She's super talented. I'm absolutely behind her 100%, and I want to support her. But her path is her path, and it's different than mine. And And I think I absolutely know she's going to be successful, but what that's going to look like, it's not going to look like my success. It's going to look different than my success because it's going to be her success. And so I'm just always trying to help her to, and I would say that to all young people. I think that young people in general are really obsessed with this idea of success and quick success and fame and fortune. And, I just think that, take time, because your life informs the way you want to have your success, because not all success is equal. And, there's a lot you have to give up for certain kinds of success. And you have to start to understand what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're willing, so I just think that you don't have that kind of context when you're 20 years old or 22 or 23 years old, or, you get that more as you get older. So I would just encourage people to just not be so obsessed with this idea that it all has to happen right now. And I know that society's always putting that out there, but really collect and build your character, because your character is the thing that's going to carry you through the ups and downs. Even when you're successful, you have highs and lows in that. And it's very important that you build your character, much more than anything else, I think. But that's just me.
When you were building your career and you were really starting to get traction, what was the success to you then? And looking back on it, was that right?
Well, no, because I think when I was younger, I think that I was very pure in my excitement and interest and focused on the craft until I was maybe in my 18, 19, 20, 21, something like that. Then I started getting seduced by a lot of what I'm talking about, where I started comparing myself
to other people?
Yeah, like looking at people's careers and thinking I wanted that career. And that's really dangerous, because there's only one seat for each person. There's no two Tom Cruise seats. There's no two, Gene Hackman, who just passed away, who I had the, wonderful pleasure of working with in Absolute Power. There's no two Gene Hackman seats. It's just one for him. So what I would encourage my younger self to do would be more like working on the Melora Hardin seat, and I think that I found that I did get there, but it just took maturity, and it took, I think, luckily I was always very attracted to self-actualization, being conscious, being a conscious person, and being somebody that, I'm very curious about human nature, about my own human nature and other people's human nature and what makes people tick. And so I've been on that path since I was about 21, like really on that. So I think that helped me build my character.
Do you have a favorite character you've ever done?
Oh my God, so many great characters. For sure, Jan is one of my favorite characters. Tammy Cashman from Transparent is one of my favorite characters. She was just fabulous and fun and wonderful. And Roxy Hart, when I did Chicago on Broadway, so much fun. My God, what a great character. And then, in Golden Vanity, the one-woman movie again, Mabel Montgomery Mayflower, incredible character. She's a little bit off of Judy Garland, kind of a little bit Judy Garland, a little bit Elizabeth Taylor. So she's super, super fun. So many. I've had so many. But even just sometimes some of the things I've done, guest starring parts, and, I've had some real fun doing some of those too. Some murderesses.
When you're reading the script and before you start filming, is that character pretty flushed out? You know how you're going to take it on? Do you ever pivot as you're filming? You're like, ooh, maybe I should approach it like this.
Yeah, but it's not like that. It's, I think that when I'm reading something, I get a real hit about it. I get a real feeling about it. Then I can make conscious choices about what I'm going to do to build that character. And then really it's a lot of letting it go, just really letting it go and sailing. I don't think it's great to hold on to and muscle something. So, I work to create very strong characters, very strong choices within my characters, but then I'm also really able to pivot, on a dime if need be, also based on what my scene partner is going to give me, and the way they're playing their side of the scene is going to inform the moment.
Right. What's it feel like when you get lost in it?
Just like heaven. Yeah, it's just sublime. It's so great. Yeah.
Are there any memories from The Office that really stick out to you as like that was a great shooting day?
The whole episode of Dinner Party was so fun because it was so awkward, the whole thing. It was in a tiny, tiny little condo.
What town?
In like way in the valley, deep in the valley, and it was just so hot. It was a crazy hot summer that year. And the writer's strike interrupted us, so we had to stop and then come back. The whole thing was just so perfectly off because that's what this episode was.
Yeah.
It just all matched itself. We were like all just too close and everything. They had to keep turning the air conditioning off for sound, and it was like too hot and too close, and all that really informed I think how brilliant that episode is.
The moment of throwing a Dundee at a TV. Did you hit it every time?
I did. Thank you very much.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and all those crew guys, they were really turned on by that.
Yeah.
That was pretty cute.
The filming style of it is so cool because it's so untraditional.
Yeah.
Is the lighting crew there? Like, are the lights set? Or are they kind of like shimmying it around?
In The Office, everything is really set. Like at The Office, there's really very little lighting changes. It's like basically the light is there and it's there and that's it. When we were on location, like we were for the dinner party, everything had to be lit. But it was there wasn't a lot of lighting on that show. It wasn't like light the scene and take an hour. And, there's some shows that are very beautifully lit, and that was not The Office.
How'd you like working with that camera style? As opposed to like traditional.
Yeah. Oh, it was fun. It was really fun, because we were like, it was, the camera was a character. And so our operators were characters, and, and what was nice about the show is that you could engage with them, and you can actually acknowledge that they're there. So that's fun too. And a lot of times you're doing, with Golden Vanity, like there's scenes where he's like in my face and I'm just sort of like, and that's also fun because that's like the blend of the transparency of that other person that isn't there at all. So The Office was fun because it was unusual that we got to be acknowledging of them being there.
Was it weird working with, on the acting side, that didn't make sense. Is it weird working with actors who are also the writers of the show?
No, it's great.
It's all just like feels.
Yeah, they're just creative and, bringing their creative chops in all different ways to it.
What about in The Office, when you guys are doing the lawyer stuff at the law firm? Is that at a real law firm, or is that just on a soundstage in a set?
That was a set. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a set. Mm-hmm.
Are many of the lines improvised?
Yeah, we always improvised. We always did it as written, and then we always also improvised it a little bit. But we would always improvise around the context of the scene.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Another sitcom I loved, Friends.
Yeah.
What was it like working with David Schwimmer?
Well, David and I knew each other since we were 17 because we had mutual friends in high school. So we both went to high school here in Los Angeles, and so we had mutual friends. We went to different high schools, but we had mutual friends, and we actually went on a date when we were 17, which is hilarious.
Where'd you go?
I can't remember. We went out to dinner, and I don't really remember. I just remember kissing behind his couch in his parents' living room. He might remember that too. I don't know. It's hilarious. But what was really funny was because I went in, and what was really funny was Friends. I remember he was working at Daily Grill as a waiter, and I tested for five pilots that year and didn't get anything. And Friends was the first pilot he tested for, and he got it.
Oh, wow.
So that was I remember just being like, wow, and he was so excited. And, we didn't know Friends was going to be what it was. But it was just, we were all so happy for him. And And we remained friends. I mean, we went on like one date. It wasn't like it continued. It wasn't like we were dating, but we kind of were more friends than anything. But then when I went in for the guest starring thing to play opposite him, they cast me, and then the producers were like so impressed that David and I were already friends, and that I hadn't mentioned it, that I hadn't said like, David's my friend, you know?
Yeah.
They were like, oh wow, you know, so many actors would have used that as like, you know, but David's a great actor. He's so much fun to work with, and he's also a director, and you know, so yeah, and we still have a really fun relationship. He came and saw me in McNeil, actually came to one of the previews, and we went out, and he had some really at a time that things were still shaping and things were still changing, and he had some great comments and was very supportive, and we had a good time.
Could you film that? That was season 1 of Friends, right?
I think it was. Yeah, I think so.
So
I
that
think
was,
it was.
Did you film that before it even got released to the public?
No. I don't know. I can't remember. I have no idea. I have no idea. I wouldn't even be able to tell you. I'm sure there'll be some fans out there that know the answer to that.
How did the acting pool work? Were you always auditioning against like pretty similar people for each role?
I mean, there were always people I would see, you know, like Laura Dern and Helen Hunt, and I would always, you know, and who else did I see a lot? I saw, yeah, and like Brenda Strong, and I would sometimes, you know, and yeah, just, I mean, and a lot of others that were, you know, we would sort of show similar types. We would show up for a lot of the same things.
Was it important to go out to all the different premieres and like get those paparazzi photos?
No.
No?
It wasn't, because it wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing back then. It really wasn't. Not like it is now. Not at all. It was, no, it was much more about
The art of it?
going to the audition and getting the part and doing the work. And, you know, I didn't even know about having a publicist until, I don't even, like, wow, when did I do that? I mean, when I was like, I think Absolute Power was when it was the first time I had a publicist. That wasn't, because they have publicists that are their own, you know, like NBC has a publicist that works with you. But I didn't understand that there was a value in having my own team outside of the team, you know, that was working for the show. But that team's working for the show. They're not working for you. And yeah, so it was a learning curve for me, because my dad never really engaged in that part. He was just really like a working actor. He came from the theater, and he came from, you know, the craft and you know, getting the work and doing the work. And, you know, he really believed that good craft equaled good career. And that's not true necessarily. There's a lot of people that have really bad craft and they have great career. And then there's a lot of people that have, you know, amazing craft and they have no career. You know, so they don't go hand in hand. And so I had to learn that. And once I learned that, it was like, oh, okay, hold on. I got to get more in relationship, because my dad and my mom gave me incredible craft, and they gave me an incredible relationship to craft.
Because they were acting coaches, right?
Because my mom was an acting teacher for like Leonardo DiCaprio and Jessica Biel, and a manager for Jessica and you know,
Jake Gyllenhaal too?
And Jake Gyllenhaal and Maggie Gyllenhaal, she taught them. And yeah, so, you know, she's taught so many young actors that you know, then became really River Phoenix and Joaquin Phoenix, and, you know, on and on and on. So yeah, and my dad, you know, he was, you know, working actor all the time. And so they really taught me my craft, and they really were amazing at that. But as far as career, that was a whole learning curve that I had to learn.
When did you realize you're really good at this?
At which part?
Acting.
Well, I have a pretty great story. When I was 18, I decided that I needed to find out if I was really, really good, or just, you know, like if I could really do what I wanted to do and what I thought I wanted to do. And so I had always taken with my mom, and, you know, my mom had been my teacher. And so I decided I was going to go take from some other acting teachers, and I went to Stella Adler's class when she was still alive, and she had sort of historically was very tough on women, and even tougher on beautiful women. And I was 18 and pretty beautiful and, you know, a woman. So it was like I got into her class and I prepared a scene, which was Agnes of God, to play Agnes with this other woman. And I really worked really, really hard on this scene. I really infused it, and I made myself this wooden cross that I, you know, infused with all this stuff. And I made myself a whole like habit in white sheets. It was just like all white. And I created a whole, you know, imaginary, you know, place that I was in. And I'm like, it's like really emotional. And I'm like, and she says, stop. And the other actress, she starts giving her other like notes. And I just sort of take all my emotion in and pull it in and just hold. And then she tells her some stuff. And then she says, okay, continue. And she does that at least 2 or 3 more times to the other actress. And I have to, it's a very emotional scene. And I just pull it all in and I hold and then continue. And at the end, she says, so this is da, 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 to the other actress. And then she turns to me and she says, and I have nothing to say to you. That was brilliant.
I got chills.
And I was like, what?
That's the best feeling.
I was like, what? So Stella Adler gave me the gift of knowing, okay, I can do this.
What's your favorite part of the whole process? Auditioning, landing it, acting it, seeing the final cut?
The work. I love the work, but of course I love seeing it. But so often you do something and it's, I mean, that's sort of the fun of theater, right? Is that you kind of, you know, I mean, it's the work. It's always the work for sure. But it is also very, very fun when you get the feedback from the audience or you get to go see the premiere of the movie you've been in and you love it. And that doesn't always happen, but it does happen sometimes. And when it does, it's like really exciting. Or the TV show you're on. And you get to also just see the reaction from the fans and from the people that are enjoying your work and enjoying the show you're doing or the play you're doing.
Was there a crazy premiere for Tower of Terror?
No, I don't think there was.
Oh.
I don't remember that there was. Maybe.
Because
I
the
don't
ride
think
came
so.
first, and then I just
Yeah.
assumed it would be like at the ride, you guys were riding it, having a great time.
I know. You would think.
Yeah.
You would think we would. That's what they should have done.
Yeah.
I don't remember there being a big. No, I don't remember there being. But there should have been. That was a fun movie.
How was working with Zac Efron on 17 again?
Well, that was great. I mean, my mom actually coached him on that, and he's just a lovely, lovely person. I mean, he's so down to earth and just such a great guy. I really enjoyed him. I said to him once, I was like, you know, if you were my age and I was single, you'd be in big trouble. And he was like, oh, you don't have to be my age. And I was like, what did you just say?
Oh, Zachary.
That worked for me. That worked for me. Yeah. That made me feel pretty good.
Zac Efron.
Because I'm quite a lot older than him. So that was really nice. It was I'm sure he was just being sweet, but he is absolutely a lovely, lovely person.
How was the Hannah Montana movie?
Oh, so fun. So fun. Yeah, great.
That was, the show came out first and then the movie
Yeah,
comes out. So
yeah.
there's already so much buzz about it.
Oh, yeah. It was a big deal. I mean, it's funny because I remember Miley bringing in the demo of The Climb into the makeup trailer. And she was like, we're going to record this song. And she was like the demo and she'd done like scratch vocals or something. And I just remember thinking, wow, that's a great song. I knew it is a great song. I actually sing that song sometimes when I do cabaret. It's such a great song, The Climb. Beautiful song. But, you know, Miley's like, she was just so enthusiastic and excited and hardworking. And yeah.
Does a personality like her get you really fired up for a project?
I mean, I wasn't like a big fan of the Hannah Montana movie. I mean, the Hannah Montana show. I wasn't, because that wasn't where I was living, and my kids I didn't even have my kids watch. They just weren't watching TV because we just didn't do TV at all. So at that age, especially when they were that little, so there was no TV. So I didn't really even know what the show was. I just was thrilled to, I loved the character. And I thought the script was really cute, and so I just thought And I was just sort of, I didn't know she was going to go on to do what she's done, but she was just she was really out there. She's really out there, she's really, in the sense that there's nothing about her that sort of like needs to be solo or private or something, like she doesn't have that thing that I had or that I have, she's really out there. Like she likes to be out there.
Right.
And she's really great.
How fast can you read a script? Like a 90-page script?
I'm a very slow reader, but I just skim it. I'll usually skim it the first time just to sort of feel into it. And I don't read all the stage directions. I just read. I usually just read all the dialogue. I just read dialogue. That's what I do first. And then if I love it, I'll go back and really read it like more, deeply.
Are there any characters of any other shows that you weren't on that you're like, oh, I would have killed it on this?
Oh, there's so many.
Which ones?
Of course. On TV shows?
Or movies, yeah.
Oh my God, of course, there's so many. Yeah, but I don't really live my life like that. Like I don't live in regrets, so it's hard for me to, I don't retain that kind of thing. I don't retain like, oh, damn it, I wish that was mine. Just trying to think, was there anything? Well, like for instance, Princess Bride, I didn't respond to that. Like I didn't respond to the script. I didn't get it. And they really wanted me to audition for it, and I didn't. And actually at that time, Robin Wright and I looked really quite similar. She's a little older than me, but we both had like the same hair, and a lot of people thought we looked like sisters, And anyway, so that's one that I did for a long time look back on like, what? Why didn't my people make me go? Like, what was I thinking? It was like a perfect part for me, and I would have loved it. I don't know, who knows? She would have gotten it, I would have gotten it, whatever. But all I'm saying is it's one of those weird ones where you're like, what was I, where was my head? But I was so young, and, I was just, who knows what it was that was.
Casting and roles are just so interesting because there's also the Back to the Future lore of it. Mm-hmm. Where you were cast for one role, but then because they thought that looking together on screen wouldn't work.
It was originally Eric Stoltz was cast, and it was opposite Eric Stoltz. And
be Marty McFly.
To be Marty McFly. And then I was cast to play his girlfriend, who was then going to be in the second one as well. So it was a 2-picture deal, and it was a big deal, and everyone knew it was a big deal. And I went and did some promotional pictures and stuff, and then 2 weeks into filming, they fired Eric and brought in Michael J. Fox. And when they did that, it was apparently the 2 female executives at the time that thought that it was emasculating for their lead character, male, to be in scenes with a woman that was taller than him. So when people say like, God, we just haven't come anywhere, I'm like, no, we've come a long way, because you'd never hear 2 female executives say that today. No. Ever. You just wouldn't hear that. So that's definitely we've come a long way, because that was in the 80s,
Right.
So I just like to remind people of that. And I also don't blame those 2 female executives in the 80s, because I think in the 80s that was a really, really hard time for women to be executives. And I think they felt that they had to be, they had to think in a masculine way. And they were protecting the masculine, because that was what was running Hollywood at the time. And still is, really, but but less now. It's more diverse, with women and all the time. But I forgive those 2 women, But at the time, at 17 years old, that was crushing for me, and very, very upsetting. Whatever. If I had done it, I'm sure it would have all gone in a different way. I wouldn't have done The Office.
Yeah. One of my favorite roles, on the Hot Chick. What was working with Rob Schneider like? How'd you like creating that character?
Well, it was great, because they said to me, I had just literally my first daughter was, I think, 3 weeks old when we started working on that, maybe 4 weeks old.
Oh, you
really,
just
really
gave...
young.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was breastfeeding all the time, and I remember them saying, can you just tell her not to lose any of that baby weight because we really like it, which I thought was really cute. And of course, I wasn't planning on losing it, so I'm really glad they didn't want me to. So my boobs look amazing in that movie because they're just full of breast milk. Yeah. And I was breastfeeding all the time, and I had a friend come and just stay in the trailer, and my daughter Rory was with me on set all the time, and
So
it was great.
did you audition with that when you were pregnant?
No, I wasn't pregnant. No, I went in right when she'd just been born.
Oh, and then you got
we
cast.
started, and then I got cast, and we started right away. So she was okay. Maybe that's not true. I think I went in, and now I think I'm not good with numbers. Sorry, guys. I think it was more like she was like 3 months old, and I think I auditioned when she was like 3 or 4 weeks old, something like that. You know what I mean? So I had just had her.
Got it.
And then I auditioned, and then I got it, and then when we were making it, it was like she was like 3 months old or something. She was very young. She was a little tiny thing, but not like weeks. What was I saying? Of course, she wasn't weeks old.
It would have been impressive.
She was a few months
Still
old.
impressive.
No, I actually don't think women should do that. I think that's like such a really, really just incredible time with your baby that you just don't realize how fast that's going to go. I mean, it's just like gone in a minute. So I always encourage new mothers to like really keep that close, that time. Stay in and be close with your kids for the first 6 weeks. Like really, if you can go and like if you need to go get a manicure or something, do that. But like stay as close as you can. Keep it really close and quiet. It's so beautiful. So fleeting.
Do you take traveling roles into account when it comes to your family?
Well, I certainly did. Now, they're grown women and doing their own things, but not. I mean, I remember when I did the Bold Type, because we shot the Bold Type in Montreal, sort of for New York, and the girls were, young teenagers at the time, preteens and tweens and teens, and I basically said to them, thank you, because they always come first, and I just said, like, if you guys were a mess or you weren't as happy and thriving as you are, I would have had to chosen you, and I would have had to be here. Like, the reason that I can do this is because of your dad, my husband, who's an incredible partner and incredible, makes things work and keeps the world running, and just an incredible partner, because, you can't do that without an incredible partner. And then the kids, like, they were happy and thriving and not, they were okay with mom, traveling back and forth.
Was there any traveling with Knucklehead?
With
Paul White, The Big Show?
Yeah, we shot that. I forgot which was it? New Orleans. We shot it in New Orleans. Yeah.
What's working with a guy like him?
Oh, he was so much fun. He's so much fun. What a fun guy. Yeah, but really, wow, hard to live with that. I can't imagine that must be hard for him. But I liked him. I liked him a lot. He was great. He was a hard worker, and just very sweet. Very sweet.
I grew up on wrestling. I loved
you
all
did?
that. Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, very sweet guy.
How has set life, because you did Little House on the Prairie, Love Boat, Thunder. How is set life then versus how is it now? Does it feel like it's more fast paced? Like, are people on a tighter budget? Like,
first of all, the main thing is that you really rarely saw women, besides cast mates that were women.
As the crew.
Yeah, you really didn't see that much. Sometimes you'd see them like in the costume department and the makeup. You'd see them in the costume department, and the makeup and hair department when I was a kid. But you didn't see them, like, you didn't see women producers, you didn't see women directors, you didn't see women DPs, you didn't see, you sometimes would see women production designers, but not very much. So that's the real main change for me that I notice, because you just see a lot more women now.
Was there
in all of those places? Was
there like a day that it changed, or was it gradual?
It's been gradual. Yeah. It's been gradual. There was the odd, woman director here and there, but not really, really, really rare. Yeah.
Why do they have different directors for each episode of TV?
Well, not all shows do that. Some shows they have the same person. But a lot of times
the entire season.
Yeah, sometimes they'll do that. But a lot of times they do that because they want the director to have time to prep for the next show.
Oh.
So if they don't have all the episodes written and they're working on the episodes, they want the director to have, basically it takes a week of prep for every episode. So that's why usually they can't really, it's unusual to have somebody directing a whole series.
Have you directed?
I have.
And you handle the location scouting.
Yeah, I did all that.
Do you like doing all that?
I did. I love it. Yeah, I love it. And it was funny because all the directing I'd done before I directed the Bold Type was all very independent, very, just like independent movies and, theater and stuff. So when I got onto directing an episode of television, it was like everyone was like, well, how are you going to do with the time, and how are you going to do with the time crunch and and I was like,
because there's more restrictions type of thing?
Yeah, well, just because it's fast paced. And I was like, you have no idea, this is like luxury compared to what I've done as far as the independent stuff I've done, where you're on a tight string, shoestring budget, and you just, it suits me very, very well. I'm good at making decisions. I understand what everybody's doing on set. I understand what everyone's job is. So I have a lot of respect for all of that and how we can work together and to make something come to life. But for me, directing television was just, I had never had that many people that were there to help support my vision, to help my vision come to life. Where I would say the episode of the Bold Type that I directed was an episode that was snowing. And so we had some actual snow, but we also had to create snow. And so it was just so fun to be like, so I'm going to, this shot, I'm going to sort of pan off of the window here. And then for the next, into the next scene, I'm going to pan off that window where we are up in the office. And I want it to be snowing, and then it's snowing continual into the next window. And, then you get like 10 people from the special effects department coming. I'm going, okay, so in that case, we're going to, and I'm just like, wow, this is so awesome. They're going to make my dream come true.
Can you tell me about your scarves and the wallpaper?
Yeah. So,
which you have Melora.com, which is incredible.
I know. Thank you very much. I think that was my brother who encouraged me to get my website name, like way at the beginning when first, websites were happening. Like that was, I think he was like, get your name. And I wish I'd gotten my full name, but I think it's pretty great that I just got my first name. In any case, so I have been making a documentary for the last 7 years called Hunter's Thunder. And when I was 10 years old, I was on a show called Thunder about a wild black stallion that came when I whistled, and my character's name was Cindy Prescott. And Cindy would climb on the back of Thunder, and they would go and save the day. They would pull people's legs out of traps or help animals, that were hurt. And flash forward to 7 years ago, I was directing my friend Paula Cole's music video for her 20th anniversary music video of Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? And in the 90s, her video was very abstract because that was what was in the 90s. And I just said, you're such a great story song. Let's do a narrative video because it's such an amazing story, the song. So I called my producer and said, do you know anyone who lives in town who has a horse? And he said, yes, I do. And I went over to her house and I walked through her door and she went, oh my God, you were Cindy Prescott on Thunder. That was my favorite show. I felt like I was you and you were me. I really resonated with the little girl heroine that you played. And I wanted to be the little girl with the horse. And now I am. I've got 47 actor animals. And so anyway, we ended up working together. I used all of her animals. I used her location. She was just one of those people that you want on every set. She just made everything work. If there were problems, she would fix it. She just was just amazing and fun and pretty and fabulous in every way. And I was like, where is her partner? Like, she's the coolest, one of the coolest people I've ever worked with, just so fun. And she goes, oh yeah, I don't have a partner, like a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. I've never been on a date. I've never kissed anyone. And I'm like, what? How old are you? And she says, I'm 50. She never
kissed anyone.
Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. So were you raised in a religious family? And she says, no, but I think I'm ready now. And I'm like, okay, well, call me if you have questions. Cause I fancy myself a matchmaker, maybe I can help. So 6 weeks later, she calls me and she says, "How long is too long of a hug, and what is spooning?" And I'm like, these are very young questions. I don't know how to, how do I go from here? It's a 50-year-old woman, and she's asking me about spooning and too long of a hug. So something about the conversation spawns me to ask a question that I've never asked anyone in my life, which is there any chance you were raped? And she says, well, there was that weird guy in the park when I was 7 that did weird things. And I could just tell by the way she was talking to me and what she was saying that she had definitely been raped. And I was terrified and I just literally picked her up right in that moment, and I took her to my coach, and I just sort of opened my life to her, and I opened my resources to her, and we started filming because she's so smart and really wanted change, was so hungry for change, and the penny was just dropping like faster and faster all the time. And I thought, even if we're just filming for you as a video diary, this is going to be really important that you remember how much you've changed, because I could feel that she was going to change in a really dramatic way, and she has. And and through the process of filming, I had to leave after this like very intense time. I had to go to Montreal and start working on the first season of The Bold Type. And I got this like hit that I should start collaging. And now I've always been a collage artist, but I never thought of it as anything other than just doodles or crafting. But I got this like download, like it was almost like being possessed. Like I just sort of got there and I just started, going. And I wasn't thinking, I just was making. And then I would take a picture of the collage and I would send it to Hunter, and Hunter would say, wow, that's so incredible. And she'd say, I woke up with a nightmare last night, and I opened the picture of that collage, and I went inside the collage. I went into that tree that you have in the collage, and I feel like I was in there, and I was dreaming, and I felt better, and ultimately I felt like I could go back to sleep. So she started using my collages as healing tools for her life, and so she infused them with meaning, and I can't really do anything unless there's meaning behind it for me, personal meaning, or and so I just kept on making, and everyone who saw it would say, I just want it huge. I just want it so big. I feel like these are going to be big. My best friend who's been my best friend since we were 18, she's kind of psychic, and she's like, I just see this as like a huge set piece behind you or something. It needs to be really big. And then, one of my good friends in Montreal said, she saw them, and she said, oh, my brother works with artists to collaborate on creating wallpapers. And so then they suddenly became really big. And then I started working with a fine art gallery, and I started making really big fine art collages that were like 6 feet by 3 feet. And then I decided to make a coat for myself with one of my collages. And then I decided to make some upholstery, and now I've got a line of scarves that's my collage art. So it's been a very organic process of kind of having these pieces, and they're definitely an extension of the documentary, and would have never happened if it hadn't been for Hunter, because she's the one that made them have meaning. So it's like when you start doing something like making the documentary, it looks from the outside like I'm the one giving everything, but ultimately I got, of course, more than I gave, in the sense that she just opened up this whole other part of my creative expression that I never had put any value on until she came along. So the documentary is going to be out hopefully later this year or next year, but we're really working hard to do that. We're pretty close now, and
to finishing it.
Yeah.
Where'd you figure out where the ending was?
Yeah, documentaries are weirdly, they sort of tell themselves, right? The story tells itself, and I think for me as the filmmaker, when Hunter and I decided that we were going to make this into a documentary, I really said to her, that she was always my my priority, in the sense that her healing and her evolution was my priority. And so for the longest time, in different incarnations of this film, I had, the intention that she would tell her own story, but she couldn't. For the longest time, I had to tell her story. And I'm in the movie too, because she just needed me to be holding her all the time. So I was always holding her and holding the camera, and it's 90% self-shot. And I forgot that I was in the movie when I started cutting it. It was like, oh, that's weird. I didn't realize that I have to deal with this fact that this is a story about two women. This is about a friendship. It's about a female friendship. It's not about this one person who we're tracking her healing. It's about me and her and how we do it together as friends. And we do it very creatively. That's how we do it. Clearly, like you look at what's come out of it for me with the collages and the wallpaper and storyboards by Melora Hardin and all that. That's all because of the creative way that we did this together. And so for me, like the reason I know we're almost to the finish line is that Hunter's ready to tell her own story now. It's now her voice, and that changes everything as a film, because she gets to say, and you also don't worry so much about her, because we started filming so quickly. I just had the good instinct to pick up a camera, like literally, I don't know, 2 weeks into this, of meeting her, and finding out about this. And she's so vulnerable, and she's so fearless about showing herself. And I think it made it made the very few people who were seeing some of the early cuts were worried about her, because she is so vulnerable. And now, because she's going to tell her own story, you get to hear the strength in her voice and the groundedness and the kind of ownership of, this is where I came from and this is where I am now. So it's very beautiful.
That's
very
that
beautiful.
1, 2, 3 where it comes all the way around. You were saying
Exactly.
You said hopefully by the end of the year.
I hope so. Yeah, that's my plan. I'm hoping that we'll be done in time to submit for Sundance, which is like the end of September. I'm hoping we'll really have it together by then. That's my plan.
So are you going to be?
But the fires kind of messed it up a little, because I was planning to really be like deep into it by now.
Right.
And we just haven't been able to gather ourselves to do that, because I'm displaced. I'm not even at home. It's just it's the amount of paperwork and stuff you have to think about when you're, even though my house is still standing, and we're one of the lucky ones for sure, and I have friends, it's heartbreaking, who've lost everything. So I'm very grateful that we're lucky enough to still have an address and all that. But it still is difficult. It's still a difficult problem when you're displaced because of smoke damage, and your community is very changed, and just finding your grounding. So
is it unlivable right now?
It's like we can't live in our house. We haven't been living in our house since January 7th. Well, we actually did live there for a few days after, because we were worried about embers and looters and that kind of thing. But
do they have an idea of when you can go back?
I think it'll be another month or two. Yeah, another month or two.
So sorry.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Well, hopefully the documentary can come out by the end of the year.
Yes, that's my plan. I hope so.
Can we fire through some fan questions?
Sure.
Can I ask you about Gilmore Girls?
Okay.
That's the question. What do you remember about it?
Well, the fun thing is that Amy Palladino and I took ballet together as little girls. So we've known each other a really, really long time. So that was super fun to work with Amy and to see her in her power. She's a really excellent director. And so that's what I remember. Just being able to work with my friend Amy was great.
I once watched you on Different Strokes and saw you on an episode. What do you remember about that experience?
Well, it was hard for me to pretend like I couldn't dance, because I'm a dancer, and I was very, really dancing like 5 times a week, taking classes. So I had to pretend like I had no dancing skills. Actually, somebody put together on YouTube or something, or on Instagram, I don't know, like a little amalgamation of me dancing in different strokes and then me dancing in Dinner Party episode of The Office. And that's it's such a cute little, because both times I had to kind of try to be a little bit off the beat and just not really, I wanted to just, because I felt like with the Jan moment, I wanted her to just be a little like off the beat, and just so. And with different strokes, I was supposed to not be able to know how to dance, and Todd Bridges' character was supposed to be teaching me to dance.
With Jan, the connection between her and Michael was so electric, like right from the start. Mm-hmm. Did you and Steve Carell have that right from day one of filming it? Yeah, we did. There was just something very palpable about it. I remember sitting at the lunch table on the pilot with Steve and Greg Daniels and myself, and I remember us all saying, like, there's something very interesting between Jan and Michael. And I think that chemistry, like if we get so lucky as to get to do more of these, we should have them hook up sometime, And then was that so we all felt it. Yeah, we all felt it. When you read the script for when they actually finally do hook up, yeah, did that feel like, oh wow, we're really getting character development here? Yeah, it really was perfect. It was just perfect, and just the way that happened in the cocktail, episode was hilarious with where they were at Chili's and the first kiss that they have is just so ridiculous. And just how mad she is at him, and how that comes out in like sexual frustration. And you could just see them, like really going at it in the bedroom because there's so much sexual frustration. Do you think they had a great time in Sandals, Jamaica? I think that they probably did. I think she had him wrapped around her finger. And I think and I think he was just like, couldn't believe how lucky he was. He couldn't believe the catch that he got. And I think that the dynamic was so dysfunctional that it was like so perfectly dysfunctional. And I just bet that they had like some pretty great sex. I mean, they filmed it. I'm sure they did. I think they had some pretty great sex. Yeah. What do you think happens to a character when the show ends? Like, where's Jan today? Well, that's interesting because someone, I think in the New York Times, they did an article about Jacqueline Carlisle, who was the character I played on The Bold Type, and Jan Levinson. And it was like a crossover, like Jan Levinson becomes Jacqueline Carlisle. Like, it was sort of this, that's who she had become. Okay. Which couldn't be more diametrically opposite, which is kind of a fun idea. The writer kind of played with that. Yeah. So I liked that. That was fun. How'd you find out you got nominated for an Emmy? My publicist called me the morning that they announced it and said, you got nominated. You did it. You got nominated. Yeah. And I was like, what? Yeah. That was really exciting. That's so cool. Yeah. This has been so cool talking to you. Thank you so much for making the time and coming by. Thank you. You're so welcome. You were so lovely. Are you going to start posting on TikTok now? Yeah, now I'm going to, because per your suggestion. Okay. Yeah. TikTok is now active. It's at Melora Hardin. Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much for coming by, guys. Go follow on TikTok. Go to my website. Buy a scarf. Buy a scarf. Melora.com. For your loved one. Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Cool. That was out. That was so good.